who's enforcing this? Is it governments that are enforcing it? Is it the gaming institutions that are enforcing it? Like, who's actually being held accountable so that people don't sit and play Fortnite for 17 hours a day? Because that is not healthy.
Yeah, the hard thing to understand about gaming that's different is the commerciality of it. So esports as an industry doesn't have a regulator because they're all private or public companies that have their own commercial interests. So you can't claim to be a governing body, for example, because why would EA, who's a public trading company, EA Activision in the US, listen to you in Australia? They're just going to tell you to piss off because they're so much larger than you'll ever be. The same way League of Legends is owned by Tencent, which is a tens of billions dollar company in China. The same way that other certain companies are owned by different things, right? So that's one part. So a lot of it then comes down to either the publisher themselves doing something. So League of Legends is extremely active in the school space and educating people. They've got a Learn with League program where they're educating parents and teachers and a lot of this around mental health, inclusion and physicality aspects and taking breaks from gaming, etc. They've taken that on, but other games haven't. So then it becomes to the governments that we're talking to and them saying, at the moment, they don't even understand it because they're saying, what portfolio does this fit under? Is this entertainment? Is this sport? Is this business? Is this IT? They don't even know where to begin to start off with that.
Yeah.
There are some countries that are quite far ahead. For example, Malaysia now has an esports commissioner as part of it, and they've got an esports strategy, so it would be up to them to look after that, and they've talked about some aspects of this in there. Or Japan as well, who have very heavy regulations on sport, do also on esports. For example, you can't run a competition with cash prizes without being accredited by their government-accredited association, the Japan Esports Association. I think that's the name, something similar, one of those kind of, one of those
So
names.
you think that's a realistic future for gaming around the world, is you would have esports organizations in each individual region or country or whatever it is, and that's kind of the governing body that makes sure that holds the gaming promoters to the standards that they should hold.
So an easy example is gambling and loot boxes. There was an Australian inquiry into loot boxes.
Yeah, I remember this.
Because a loot box is often it's basically just gambling. You buy a key, you might win the loot box, you might buy a key for $2.50 to open it, but you have a 0.2% chance of getting an in-game item that might be worth $20,000 up to. But ultimately, that's gambling. You're pulling the pokies handle in the hope that you hit the jackpot.
Actually.
Yeah.
I remember reading about this when it all came out. I'd never heard the concept of a loot box. Can you explain it a bit more, though?
Yeah, exactly. So if you use the example, most of it was based around Overwatch and also CSGO. Yep. So when you play a game, you might get a drop after the game. It might say, hey, congrats, you played a game, you've won a free in-game cosmetic item for a skin or for a hero or a map or something special like that. Sometimes you can get what's called a loot box, and it might drop. So you might get this box, and within that box, if you can open it, you've got a certain percentage to get different quality of items. You might get an item that's really rare and other people don't have. You might get an item that you can resell on a public sell space. So I might have a digital item that I can sell to you for $400 that can be purchased, or even up to $5,000 in some cases in Counter-Strike, especially in recent years. But to open that, I'll need to buy a key, which is say $2.50. So the argument from the government side is that this is gambling because you've got a loot box. The publisher doesn't publicize what percentage of likeliness you are to win each thing.
It's pokies.
And then you've got to, exactly. So that's their argument, that it's like pokies, you've got to open up. So in some countries, as far as I understand, I think Sweden has banned them entirely. Other countries make Blizzard or the developers stipulate what the percentages are, and other countries are undecided so far.
And what are we? What are we in Australia?
That's a good question. I need to look it up. I don't think that anything has been actioned yet from the results, but someone could look it up. There's been a government there's been a government inquiry into it. So
fair enough. Knowledge. It's pretty fascinating. Not something that I would have thought about ever or known about, and did come across my computer screen and it's so.